Welcome to A Guide to Every Deck in EDH. And today we're looking at Abdul Adrian. So Abdul Adrian is one of those commanders that has choose a background as part of its type, meaning you can run any of the background cards as the second commander, so kind of like partner. Now you can pair Abdul up with any background, of course, but specifically we're pairing it up here with Agent of the Iron Throne for reasons that are going to become apparent as we go through the deck. So what does Abdul Adrian do? Abdul Adrian is a 5 mono white commander. It's a 4/4, and it says when it enters the battlefield, you exile any number of other non-land permanents you control until it leaves, and you create a 1/1 white soldier creature token for each permanent exiled this way. So right off the bat, if anyone is familiar with the Worldgorger Dragon combo, this is going to function basically the same way. But for those who are not in the know, what this allows you to do is that specifically with reanimation spells that are permanent based, so Animate Dead, Dance of the Dead, and Necromancy, what this means is that let's say you have Abdul Adrian in your graveyard, right? So you cast Animate Dead on Abdul Adrian, it comes back, and then because it enters the battlefield, it triggers, and you can exile any number of non-land permanents, including the Animate Dead. So when you exile Animate Dead, it triggers because Animate Dead is no longer attached to Abdul Adrian, which will sack Abdul Adrian. This triggers the until it leaves part of the clause, putting back all of the permanents that you exiled with Abdul, including Animate Dead. Animate Dead re-entering allows you to reanimate Abdul again, and you can repeat this over and over and over, exiling any number of your non-land permanents infinite amount of times. So what this allows you to do is 1, you get to generate infinite 1/1 soldier tokens with Abdul, and 2, if you have any cards that trigger upon entering the battlefield, leaving, or which have abilities that you can tap for immediately, you get to use those with Abdul Adrian. So of course, you get to exile any of your mana rocks. Those mana rocks re-enter, you get to tap them for mana, you continue the loop, you exile all of them again, they re-enter, you tap them again for mana. So you get to generate infinite mana if you're exiling mana rocks as part of this combo. And if you have anything that triggers on things entering or dying or leaving, you also get to combo there. So Corpse Knight, Zulaport Cutthroat, these effects will trigger upon Abdul entering or dying and drain your opponents out to win the game. So that's basically the combo. So it's the same thing as Worldgorger Dragon, except specifically Worldgorger Dragon exiles your lands, Abdul does not. So if you're trying to generate infinite mana, you do need some mana rocks in play. You can't just rely on your lands. And specifically, one of the ways that Abdul is better than Worldgorger Dragon is Worldgorger Dragon is templated so that the enter and leaves triggers are 2 separate triggers, meaning that it was always risky to run that combo, because if your opponent exiled or killed Worldgorger Dragon while its trigger was on the stack, they could just make it so that you permanently exiled all of your permanents. In this case, Abdul Adrian is until it leaves, meaning your opponent has no such window. So it's far less risky than Worldgorger Dragon. Also, because Abdul is your commander, you have this combo from the command zone at any time, whereas the same is not true of Worldgorger Dragon. So the downside is that because Abdul isn't already in your deck, you can't put him directly into the graveyard using cards like Entomb and Unmarked Grave. So you're going to want, of course, sack outlets. So any sack outlet will do. Ashnod's Altar, Phyrexian Altar, Carrion Feeder, Viscera Seer, any of these sack outlets are fine. So you want to get Abdul into play, sack it, and then reanimate it using any of your permanent-based reanimation spells, which are, again, Animate Dead, Dance of the Dead, and Necromancy. You do an infinite loop, and then you can either win by just attacking next turn with your infinite 1/1 soldier tokens, or winning on the spot with any cards that combo with them, so like Corpse Knight, Zulaport Cutthroat, etc. Felidar Guardian is in here because it also combos with Abdul. So Abdul enters, you blink Felidar Guardian, or if Abdul's already in play, you cast Felidar Guardian and blink Abdul, so they can alternatively keep blinking each other back and forth, so it effectively does the same thing as the Animate Dead loop, except you just need this one card. You could also run other cards like Resto Angel and whatnot, but just like Felidar Guardian works fine as well. Razaketh, of course, is a great card to have because it can just tutor up all of your combo pieces, and it itself is also a sack outlet. Since you're already running reanimation spells anyway, you may as well run cards that you can entomb into your graveyard. So Razaketh and Villas are going to be the big payoffs here that you can entomb or Unmarked Grave. And then some other cards, since we're running Bolas' Citadel for the card advantage, of course, we're going to have Sensei's Divining Top to pair up with that. We've also just got a bunch of other card draw in general, so like Adnaz, Peer into the Abyss, Necropotence, etc. Skull Clamp also works if we're using various death triggers with what we're doing, especially because if we don't have a combo, we can just make regular 1/1 soldier tokens that we can then equip Skull Clamp to and draw a card. And then before I move on, specifically why is it Agent of the Iron Throne? Well, first of all, in order to do the combo loops with Abdul, we do need black as part of our deck. So Agent of the Iron Throne obviously allows that. But secondly, Agent of the Iron Throne says, commander creatures you own have whenever an artifact or creature you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. So it is a way of always having a Zulaport Cutthroat, a Blood Artist effect, also in the command zone. So when you do the Abdul loop, even if you don't have a Zulaport or a Corpse Knight or any of those effects, you always just have one in the command zone anyway, so that makes Agent of the Iron Throne the perfect card to pair with Abdul. So the rest of the deck, we do want a bunch of fast mana to get all of this stuff going quicker. Bunch of lands. There's not much to note here other than that Phyrexian Tower is a way to sacrifice creatures as a land in case we don't have a sack outlet for Abdul as a creature. This is just a way to have it as part of our mana base. We've also got Emergent Zone as a way to do all of this at instant speed. Got some protection effects, of course, Silence, Grand Abolisher, Ranger Captain, and Myral, so our opponents can't interact with us. Bunch of Mana Rocks, also Lotho here as the Ledger Shredder variant that produces treasures. We've got our reanimation spells. We also have Luris, because we do have a bunch of permanents that we can get back with it, including Dance of the Dead and Animate Dead, which are very important to our combo. We've got a bunch of removal spells, and in particular, anything that's permanent based and can be exiled and re-entered with Abdul is, of course, going to be better than non-permanent based answers. So Orcish Bowmasters in particular is really good with Abdul, because if we have an infinite combo, the Orcish Bowmasters will just ping all of our opponents to death. But Abdul also works well with Skyclave, Loran, and Leonin Relic Warder as ways of getting rid of cards. But we do also want some spells because they're instant speed and cheaper, so Vanishing Verse Swords and Fragmentize. Some stacks cards, because what would a white deck be without them? So we've got Aven Mind Sensor and Opposition Agent to shut down Searching, Drannith Magistrate to stop our opponents from casting their commanders, as well as other things like stopping breach lines, Curse Totem, Elesh Norn, Bowmasters, and Shieldred. We've got a little bit of sweepers in Dam and Toxic Deluge, then a bunch of tutors, including directly into the Graveyard Tutor and Tomb, and Heliod's Pilgrim, which can go fetch up any of our Reanimator enchantments, which is going to be important, so thus fetching enchantments is better than normal. But yep, that's pretty much the Abdul deck. So you run a kind of mid-range value Orzhov deck that attempts to win either by reanimating an early Villas or Razaketh, or finding one of various combos to perform with Abdul that are Worldgorger loop-esque. Blinking Abdul or reanimating it over and over and over to generate infinite tokens or get infinite triggers on Zulaport, Corpse Knight, or the background. And yep, that is going to be Abdul / Agent of the Iron Throne.